I'm Mrs. Wadowski. I teach family consumer science in the middle school. Victor may pop up, my son, he's 4, and my dog Gemma may make an appearance at some point because we're home and this is what we're doing. So today I'm going to show you how to make pretzels, soft pretzels like you would get at Auntie Anne's at the mall, and we're also going to do a smoothie demonstration. So I made a batch yesterday, and that's what I'm using to roll out right now so you can see kind of how to do this part, because this recipe does take some time to rest. It needs to actually inflate, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a minute. Hey Google, stop music. So this recipe is going to be posted on the Facebook page, so you'll be able to see it, but I'm going to walk you through the steps of making it like if you were making it at your house. First thing we needed to do was to activate our yeast. So yeast comes in a jar or a packet, and it looks like, I don't know how to explain it. It looks like little yellow pieces of sand, I guess, would be the best explanation. And really it's a microorganism. So it's dormant right now. It's sleeping in that jar, and we have to wake it up and get it happy and have it have a little party so that it will actually raise up our yeast spread for our pretzel dough. And that's how we get that nice little like puffiness of the dough when you're making it, is by using yeast. Okay, so I have a cup of warm water. It needs to be warm. It should be like bath water. The way to test is if you use the inside of your wrist right here and put that under your stream of water. If it feels comfortable, like you're going to go into a bath, then it's perfect for the yeast, and they will start activating and kind of getting happy. I've got a cup of that warm water. Not quite a tablespoon of yeast. The recipe calls for 1 packet of yeast, or 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. Sugar is what the yeast eats. When it eats, it starts to expel gas, and then that's how you get that puffy texture, and that's how you get the carbon dioxide kind of working in your yeast spread. Okay, same thing is true for pizza dough. Same thing is true for bread dough. Anything that uses yeast does the same process. All right, so the next part of the recipe says to take 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and put them together in a bowl, and put them in a bigger bowl. And then it says to take the yeast once it's activated and pour it in here. Yeast takes about 10 minutes to activate. I set this up a while ago, so it's definitely ready to go in. You can see that there's 3 different layers there. We've got this liquid part here that's a darker color, all this foam here, and that is the yeast getting happy and expelling that carbon dioxide. All right, so I'm going to pour this in. Another side note, really important about yeast, salt kills yeast. So don't mix your salt and your yeast together, especially in its dry form, because it's going to kill the yeast, and then you can't do anything with it. It's not going to work. Now we're just going to give this a quick stir, mix this together. So I'm trying to get that sugar to dissolve a little bit. And then the next part of our recipe says to take, and while you're waiting for your yeast to activate, you can measure out the stuff that was in this bowl prior to the yeast addition, and you can measure out 3 cups of flour. So I measured 3 cups of flour and put them in my little bowl. I pre-measured them so that I don't have to go through and try to remember how much I've measured when I'm actually putting them into the container with the rest of my recipe. So I can just take my measuring cup, and it says to add the flour 1/3 at a time. So I can just take 1 cup and just pour 1 cup in. You could do 1/2 cup if you wanted to. That's what I did yesterday for the demonstration, just so that people can see kind of what we're doing. But we want this to create a dough. So we're just going to mix that sugar, yeast, water, oil with the flour, and we're just going to keep mixing until we get it pretty well added together. I'm going to do my next cup. I'm just going to merge this together so that it creates starting to form a dough. Right now it's just a sticky dough. It's really sticky, but it's starting to form a dough. And I'm going to do another and throw in the rest of that. All right, so then that's all set. I'm going to throw this in here. Now this is the part that my students love to do because the easiest thing is to mix with your hands at this point. And the next step in the recipe is to knead the dough for 6 minutes. So we want to work that gluten that's in the flour and get it strengthening and lengthening and becoming flexible so that we can get the yeast to activate, and then it's going to all come together and it's going to puff up, and then you have to put this in the refrigerator for 24 hours, or you can leave it on your counter for about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours. Let it work its magic. It's got to double in size, 24 hours in the refrigerator or about 4 or 5 hours on the counter, and it will be nice and big and puffy, which is what we need. We need to have that yeast kind of activated and then that gluten to start forming. So what I'm going to do is, I don't like to mix with my hands because I hate getting dough underneath my fingernails. So I'm just going to wear some gloves. Oops, I went the wrong way. I'm just going to wear gloves. And I'm actually going to start kneading this dough right here in the bowl. So I'm just going to push and flex that flour and move it around. And get it to incorporate all of that flour. That's important too. You want all of that flour to be incorporated. You don't want it to be separated. And ultimately, we're looking for a dough ball that's incorporated all of the flour. So when I keep moving this around, you're going to see now it's picking up all the flour that's in the bowl, which is what we're looking for. And then we're going to take this. And now that all of my flour is incorporated, I'm going to take this, put a little flour down on my counter, and I've got to knead this. So I'm going to show you how to knead this. I'm not going to knead it for the full 6 minutes that I'm supposed to for the recipe, just for the sake of the video and not making it be 1,000 times long. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do your kneading, and then you would want to knead for 6 minutes. You would want to watch on the clock or set a timer or play some music and then go through 2 songs, and that should be approximately 6 minutes or so. So when you are kneading, what you want to do is you're going to fold the dough over top of itself, and then you're going to use the heel of your hand to push that dough. And this is really important. You're just going to keep moving it around. And this is the really important step because you need that gluten to be flexible, those flour strands to be really flexible so that you can get the nice pretzel shape that you're going to want to have tomorrow or whenever else you finish doing this recipe. So you're just going to go through and you just keep moving it. You may need to add a little bit more flour to your counter if it's getting sticky. You don't want it to stick to the counter. That's just going to pull the dough off. And we're just going to keep kneading. And once I've kneaded for 6 minutes, I then take this ball of dough and it's going to go in the refrigerator for 24 hours, or it's going to hang out on my counter for 4 to 5 hours. What the recipe tells you to do is to take a Ziploc bag, throw some vegetable oil in here, smush it all around so that all the vegetable oil goes all over the place. And then you're going to take your ball of dough and you're going to put it right in here. And I don't seal it all the way. I seal it about halfway. And then you can either leave it on your counter and let it rise, or you can put it in the refrigerator and work on it tomorrow. So if you wanted to make this dough this afternoon, then you could do your pretzels tomorrow, and then you'd have great pretzels to eat for tomorrow. So once you let that rise and you've done all of the other steps, then you want to have your dough cut into smaller pieces. So the recipe says to cut the dough into 8 pieces. I have this nice handy dandy little dough cutter scraper, but you can use just a knife, it's fine. You're going to cut them into smaller pieces. So yesterday I did 8 pieces of dough, and I baked these yesterday, and I took some pictures to share, but these are what they came out looking like. Excuse me. And this looks more to me like a pretzel bun than it does an actual pretzel. And I did get a couple that actually look like the pretzel shape, but they more to me look like a pretzel bun, and I actually ate it as a sandwich this afternoon for lunch, and it was really good. So if you cut it into 8, it's going to make bigger pretzels. So this time I cut it into 16 little dough balls, and they're about this big. And then when I roll them, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and put them into the pretzel shape, I think that looks more like the, pretzel shape that we're looking for. It's still going to, bake up, and it's still going to have that appearance of being a pretzel, but it's they're soft pretzels. They're not hard pretzels, so it's different. Okay, so once I have my little balls of dough, I'm going to take them, and I'm going to roll. Actually, I'm going to take my gloves off. It's easier without the gloves. Okay, and then I want just a teeny little bit of flour. These are the things that I've learned as I've been doing this. Just a teeny little flour on my hand. Because if you put too much flour on the pretzel dough, it makes it really hard to stretch. And then you just roll. And all I've done is roll from the center out to the sides. Recipe says it's got to be 20 inches. You can guesstimate as best as you can. You could take a ruler and measure if you really wanted to. I have a drawer right here in front of me. It's 22 inches, I think, when I measured it. So I just kind of am eyeballing it to be almost the whole length of that drawer. And that's how big I want it to be. All right. And then I found a little picture tutorial on how to, come on. Got too much flour on my hand. I can't recognize my fingerprint. I just found a little picture, and this is how you make the pretzel shape. So I'm going to demonstrate it for you, but I just searched for one online and got one that it needed. So you make a U shape first, then you take and you cross them, and then you cross them again, and then you take this whole thing and you flip it right over. And it very easily makes that little pretzel shape, which is what you're looking for. All right, so then I've got one more to do. I'm just going to roll it out. And this would be good for, upper elementary or middle school or high school, definitely, to do as an activity. And you just cross them. Oops. And the thing I learned, you want the crossing to be closer to the little tails, because then when you flip it, it lines it up almost perfectly with making it look like an actual pretzel. All right, then the next step that we have to do is we have to make a baking soda bath. So the baking soda bath is what gives you that texture and taste of a pretzel on the outside. So we have all of these little pretzels that we've done. And then I have this side where I just took and dipped them into the baking soda bath for 30 seconds. It's supposed to be hot water, so my water's starting to get kind of warm, but it's not a big deal. And then I put them on here to dry a little bit, and then I'll put them on my baking sheet to bake. So I take them and I just lay them right on the little spatula that I'm using. And you dip them in for 30 seconds. And then you take it and pop it onto the drying mat. The recipe says you could use like a dish towel. I have not had very good luck with dish towels using it unless you have ones that are not like it's a certain texture. Like they have to be flat. Like the ones I have at school are flat, so it makes it easy to put the pretzels on. But the one I have at my house has show you this texture, which the pretzel dough was just getting stuck in it yesterday. So it didn't really work out. So I just changed to a piece of parchment paper, or you could do a piece of aluminum foil or a piece of plastic wrap, whatever you have, just to dry them out a little bit, because you don't want to have too much of the baking soda bath on them when you go through to bake them. It just makes them a little bit saturated. All right, so they're not going in there for very long, just enough to get them on there and get them wet. And then I have my ball of dough. So I need to knead this some more before I put it in the refrigerator. I didn't knead it for the full 6 minutes. So I need to do that because you don't want the flour to rest too much. Otherwise it makes it really difficult to keep their shape. So I'm going to go through and finish all of these. And I also found out yesterday when I made the bigger batches, I put them in for 8 minutes to bake, and then they took 3 additional minutes on top of that. So I would say if you make 8, they take up to 11 minutes to bake. If you do the smaller ones, they probably should be done with the 8 minutes and be fine. So I'm going to lay these out on my baking sheet. And what's going to happen is because we have that baking soda water on them, they're going to rise up in the oven, and it's going to cause that texture that you saw on the ones from before, where they have like a lighter yellow and then a darker, almost brown color. That's what you're going to have on that because of the wetness from the baking soda bath. And that's what gives it that nice like pretzel taste. That's what we're looking for. So I would also recommend not letting them set for very long from the water, because it makes them get kind of like wet, and it's just not good. Makes it harder to pick them up. All right, so I've got 4 more. I'm going to top these in the oven for 8 minutes. My oven's preheated to 400 degrees. I've got these last couple that need to go in to the saltwater bath. And then we'll stick them onto the baking sheet and put them in the next round. And once I get these done, then we're going to do the smoothie video, or the continuation of the smoothies. So you can see I'm going to do 2 at one time, so we can get those last ones in. All right, and then also we have our smoothie recipe that we're going to make. The smoothies are super, super easy. The key to make really good smoothies is to freeze your fruit. If you freeze your fruit, it's going to make the smoothie that much easier to make, and then it doesn't get watered down because you don't put in extra like ice cubes or anything like that. So I always freeze my fruit. So whenever we have buy fresh fruit, or we have bananas that are past their prime, we take these and we cut them into smaller pieces. Not tiny, because you don't need it to be tiny, but we cut it into smaller pieces, and we put it into freezer bags and stick it in our freezer. And I'm going to show you in a second our whole little bag that we have set up specifically for that. All right. I'm going to shift some of this stuff out of the way so we can do our smoothie now. And we have a Ninja blender. So we've got this blender that is awesome. Has the food processor part, and then it has all of the attachments. It has a traditional blender, but we don't really use that for smoothies. We use the little Nutri Ninja attachment because it does a really awesome job with making our smoothies. So we've got a couple of things that we need. So this is what we do in our house. We take our fresh fruit and we cut it up into smaller pieces, and we put it into baggies, and then we put it into the gallon bag that is for our smoothie pack. So today I think I'm going to do some mixed berries.
Smoothie.
Yep, go put your tablet down, and then you can come help. All right, I've got my associate today.
I'll put it here.
Okay, we'll stick it over on the side. We don't want it in the way right now. Your mom will take it. All right. All right. Put your French fries down for a second. You okay? All right. Put your French fries over there. All right. Ready? We're gonna do 4 strawberries. One, 2, 3, 4. 4 strawberries. Good.
Raspberries?
Yep. Can we do 4 raspberries? Let's do 4 raspberries.
Are they cold?
Yes, they are. They're frozen.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Very good. All right.
What's that? 3 bananas.
3 bananas. That's all of those bananas. So the recipe that we have has a different amount. It says half a cup of mixed berries. We just count because that's practicing our skills for kindergarten, which he's going to be going to soon. So we want to make sure that we're ready. Oh, wait, blueberries first.
Let's try the spinach.
Yep, we're going to do spinach too.
You do this. You do this.
Okay, well, I'm going to do 10. 10 blueberries. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Now
Okay, and now I do spinach. So we always put spinach in our smoothies. We freeze it and we add it in because it's a great way to hide vegetables, especially for picky eaters who don't want to, not that much, who don't want to have vegetables normally.
I love vegetables.
Yes, I bet you do. So we hide the taste in here. And really when you have anything that has banana is a very overwhelming flavor. So it's very easy to hide other things when you have banana in there. Can you do it? Pull up. Pull this one up. Good job. Almost. Good try. Oh, uh-oh.
You broke it too.
Oh. Whew, that was close. Thought we weren't going to get into our yogurt. And then we do 1 container of yogurt. We like Chobani in our house, but you could use any flavor.
Oh, we should do pink.
This is peach. Yep, you can do this with the honey. Hold on.
I'll do the honey.
All right, so we've got 1 8-ounce container of yogurt in there. Again, we like Chobani and we like Greek yogurt because of the thickness, but you can have whatever kind of yogurt you want. Yep, so push that in. Need some more. Recipe says 1 container, of yogurt. It says plain yogurt, but you could do whatever flavor of yogurt you want to. And then it also says
let's try over
2 tablespoons of sugar or honey, excuse me, that's to taste. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. Not yet. And then the recipe is a 3/4 cup of either milk or orange juice, depending on what you have. We ran out of orange juice this morning, so we're using milk this time. And that's just to help smooth it out because you've got all of that frozen fruit in there. So it's going to just blend it and make it nice and smooth. All right. So now we've got all of our stuff in. My associate's trying to turn on the blender by plugging it in right now. So I'm going to go check to make sure he's got that all in hand. Hold on. Let me help you.
I'll press the button.
Yep, you can press the button. All right, climb up on your seat.
Let's do it this way.
Yep. All right, ready? You can't push again. All right, now go ahead. Red button. All right, we take it off. We give it a shake. Make sure that it is good to go. And then open it up.
Okay.
See how it looks?
Yeah, that's yucky.
No, it's good. Nice and smooth.
Do you see this?
Yeah, that's a nice piece. It's a blender. Nice and smooth.
No, I'll try to eat it.
No. All right, I'm going to get you a cup. And we'll pour this in a cup so he can have some to eat. I'll show you the pretzels are going to be done in 10 seconds. So we'll show you those in a second. I'll get you smoothie in a second, okay? All right. Thank you for unplugging that. Oh, there's our smoothie, or there's our pretzels.
Hello.
All right, get down.
We're making pretzels again. Hello, we're making cookies. We're making cookies when we do it.
All right, get down for a second.
Cookies.
Hey, back up.
Cookies.
Come on. I want to show everybody the pretzels. Move out of the way, please. Thank you. So here we have our pretzels that we made. These are smaller than the ones that I made yesterday, but you can see they puffed up quite a bit from baking. So it's great. And they got that nice texture on there. So it's awesome.
We made cookies tomorrow.
No, we made cookies yesterday.
No!
Last one to bake.
Look it.
All right, say bye to everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. Have a good day.
Bye, Belly.